Welcome back to Mackem in the Middle podcast after the last home league game of the season. Hopefully, the last home League One game of Sunderland AFC. We'll never know. But it did finish 1-1 at home to Rotherham, a game that certainly has its similarities to the Plymouth game, which we'll get onto. Many people, John, said it was a must-win game. I don't think it was. I think it was a must not lose, and ultimately that's what we got out of it.
Yeah, I think obviously, it depends what side of the fence you're on. I saw a lot of, play for the draw and a lot when the team selection came out, that was sort of the thinking you would have thought from Alex Neil, just not to lose. It's probably a bit frustrating because you want to win, all your home games and be strong at home. But I do think we were set up to counter them a little bit and sort of let them tail off sort of 60, 70 minutes and then bring on the likes of Clark, Embleton to try and then play how we played on Saturday. But I'd have loved. I'm sure we all would have loved the 3 points, but I think now the dust has settled on it. Maybe last night and this morning, I think we're still in a very good position considering where we've been throughout this really good run. We've always had to win the next game. We've always, we haven't had it easy in any way, shape, or form. So maybe on balance and in hindsight, and with the injuries we've got and the players who actually played last night, maybe a point is a good result. And when has it ever really been in our own hands to be able to do it and sort of confirm it against a relatively, even though they're fighting for their lives, relatively, we say easy team, but a team we should be beating. So on the whole, we'll take a point. And then, like we say, it's in our hands, and we go again Saturday.
Yeah, and like John said there, Dylan, the team selection obviously was different to the team that played against Cambridge, and I think it's fair to say it's probably the first game that Alex Neil set us up to not go out and win the game, and to kind of be happy with the point. We obviously no Pritchard, no Embleton, no Roberts, no Clark. We had three very realistically defensive midfielders playing in Onai and Evans and Matete. It was very much a team lineup that once you saw at, 7:15, I think it came out, you would have took a point.
Yeah, no, definitely. It certainly wasn't our best 11 in terms of going forward and playing attacking football, but it's obviously everybody knows that Rotherham play very effective physical football. They've got a load of big lumps all over the pitch, so I do understand where he was coming from, because I mean, if we'd stuck like Pritchard, Hamilton all on from minute one, then there's a chance I might have all just been bullied out the game from the sheer physicality. So I mean, had he put that team out and we'd nicked it 2-1 at the end, we probably wouldn't be complaining. But I think it was more about, like, obviously we played them in the reverse fixture and got absolutely smashed. So and we had the same set at his disposal. So he had to do something different than we tried last time, I suppose. Although it was a different manager, but it wasn't the worst. Like, I wasn't too upset when I saw the team, but then I saw the way they played, and I think they didn't. I think they made us feel a bit worse about it by some of the displays that got put in.
Yeah. Well, obviously it's now 12 games unbeaten, John, and I think that was kind of one of the things we've talked about a lot. If we are to finish in the playoffs, which is looking increasingly likely that we will, touch wood, obviously, but that is a massive thing when you're going into the playoffs. And if you look at some of the teams around us, obviously Sheffield Wednesday, I think they're on a good run as well. You've got Wycombe, who I think they're in 7th at the moment. They might miss out. Although I think personally it's going to be Plymouth that miss out on the playoffs this season. It's still very important that we actually got that late goal, whether it was an own goal or not, just to keep the unbeaten one going. And it does seem like this team just don't know how to lose at the moment.
Yes, it's sort of a combination between confidence and momentum. Momentum can get you, a lot of things in football. How many times have we sort of stumbled into, the playoffs, even like under Ross. Obviously, we know how that went, even though we got through to the final, but we sort of went there maybe on a whimper almost. Whereas at the moment, like, sort of any game that we do play. Obviously, I know yesterday was a draw, but like you say, 12 unbeaten. Considering the results that we had before that, you can't. I don't think with this squad and this manager and how things have gone for obviously through January and Johnson going and the Vo thing and not getting the manager in on time and wasting those games. I think at the moment where we are is probably not the worst thing. The only probably criticism would be if we'd have got Alex Neil in maybe 1 or 2 games before. I think then we are probably looking at being in the top 2. But yeah, as you say, making it into the playoffs is an absolute must, and I don't think we're not going to get there. So you'd like to think that we'd secure that, and then I think the games do start. I believe sort of next weekend. So again, we're straight into it. And I think that's a good thing. Obviously, saying about momentum and going it that way.
Yeah. On the game, Dylan, like I said, the similarity to Plymouth was there's just really not too much to talk about at the game. Really, there was one chance in the game, really, possibly 2, if you're looking at the one that Smith had for Rotherham as well. Obviously, Rotherham took the lead, and like Alex Neil said after the game in the interview, that it was from 3 headers that Sunderland lost. There was the initial goal kick, the throw in, and then the corner, which O'Nien has taken credit for and basically admitted it was his man that he lost for the goal. But it's not a bad thing. Obviously, Rotherham went into this game not in the best form, but to limit a team that look like they're going to finish top 2 to so few chances in the game, it just shows what Alex Neil's done to the defence of this team.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, as you said there, I know Rotherham haven't been in the best of form, but they've shown throughout the season, and they show every time they're in League One, that they know how to play very effective football that gets them promoted most of the time automatically. So I mean, we've seen them put goal after goal past teams this season, even us obviously earlier in the season.
Yeah.
So to be able to just keep it tight at the back for the most part, other than, as you said, that one slip up from O'Nien, it shows a massive change, because I mean, we've gone from getting beat 6-0 off Bolton to holding second in the league to just the 1 goal. So I mean, it's not ideal. I would have preferred to win the game, but I'm happy with the draw when you think about it, because even if we beat them, we were never really going to finish any higher than playoffs unless we beat Mackem 14-0. So like, I got a bit carried away thinking if we'd smashed these, we could have finished second. But it's a draw, and it keeps it in our hands for the playoffs. So we'll hopefully get in the playoffs if we beat Morecambe. So I mean, I'm happy.
Yeah. And obviously the Cambridge game, John, I said Michael, was possibly the best performance since Alex Neil came in, and obviously probably one of the best of the season. The Rotherham one was far from it, wasn't it? We never really created anything, never really got a grip with the game, and we're losing every 50-50 or second ball. It wasn't a pleasant watch, was it?
No, it was an awful watch, and me and my little lad was so frustrated. He's only 9, bless him, and he can tell things just weren't working. I know that the way Rotherham play, and they were there to disrupt, and they're big lads, and they didn't really want to play, sort of go toe to toe with us. But I think it was a sort of, I think Alex Neil almost respected them the way that they've been playing, even though they've probably been on a bit of a poor run. But it just shows you that even though they're on a poor run, they've sort of turned up, and I thought, to be fair, they were very good and very effective. Not that I would want to play the way they play, because I wouldn't. But yeah, sort of, all over the pitch. I think they had us. They had our cards marked sort of in every way. And then you go to the team selection and you sort of look at Trey Humes, and I think if Winchester's in there, it's maybe a different game. I think Callum Doyle, I think if he's not in there and it's Cirkin, I think he deals with, is it Michael Smith, the big lad up front? I think he deals with him, a lot better. But yeah, sort of back to the game as a whole, it was awful. But the plan was, I think, to stay in the game, keep it tight, which relatively, I think we did. We didn't get any sort of football going. I think we chose to play into the crowds. the sort of the crowded areas instead of turning. Matete was guilty a few times of sort of turning into the crowd where as soon as we did switch it wide, there were a couple of times we did actually, get some chances away. But yeah, and like I say, in terms of the game, it was absolutely dire. But we probably did deserve a cracking finish at the end. To be fair, I don't even think if Ross Stewart's in that position, I don't even think he does that. My only probably real frustration over the whole game is the lad who actually won the header for their goal is actually being marked by Luca 9, which you'd expect. Just he's one of the the trusted ones in the box to sort of track his man, and he doesn't track his man. His man gets a free header, and it's if Luca 9 goes with his runner for that time, then we're looking at a 1-0 win, and an absolutely fantastic job done on them. But obviously not meant to be. But we'll take the point, we'll move on, and hopefully go and smash Morecambe.
Yeah. Well, it was second half. Rotherham made changes with Embleton, Pritchard, and Jack Clark, who came on. I think what the third one there. M3 came on, and that was really the first time that Sunderland ever looked like they were going to do something. Jack Clark, obviously, he can be frustrating, but he put a couple of good balls into the box. Pritchard had a free kick that went just wide. It does beg the question, it could have been a different game had, one or all three of them started the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like before they came on, the biggest thing I noticed was just the gap between our midfield and like where Ross Stewart was. There was just no one sort of in that space to help drive the ball forward. And obviously, if you've got Pritchard, Embleton on the pitch, they're all going to be getting in those areas. So I mean, yeah, it could have been different in terms of attacking, but had we started them from the goal, maybe we would have had an extra man too far up and got done on the counter. It's one of those ones where you never know. But I mean, sort of it's happened now, and thankfully we haven't lost. But I do agree that especially Embleton, the form he's been in recently, could have maybe got one or two more had we had our better attackers on the pitch from the get go.
Yeah, and realistically, John, I'd struggled to find anything else to talk about the game other than the equalising goal, the diving header from the same man who actually gave Rotherham the lead. So very thankful of him for rectifying his error of scoring against us. But there is talk about whether it's offside. Jack Clark puts a ball in the box. Ross Stewart appears to be in an offside position. And then obviously that forces, I'm not even going to try and say his name, to head into his own net. But is Stewart interfering with play there? He's nowhere near the defender, really, is he?
No, I don't think so. I'm not even sure if he's offside, but I think the actual rule is, because I've had it explained to me a few times, that if the ball comes over and Stewart's in an offside position, although not really interfering with play, if the defender leaves it, then you can call him offside. But if the defender makes the header, then you have to play on. I'm sure there was one at I think it was West Ham the other week, and the defender, the ball's come over, the whoever was behind him was miles offside. The defenders then headed it, but sort of like missed the header. Then they've controlled it. Then they've gone through and scored, and then they've turned around and said, "Well, why is he not offside?" Because the defender's played the ball. If the defender leaves it, the referee could then say, "Yeah, offside," but then it goes to a new, technically, I think, a phase of play. This is just only as I understand it. But fair play to him for smashing it into the top corner off the crossbar and then sort of shouting to the linesman, sort of offside. It's almost like
on his way down. Then he put his hand up, didn't he?
Yes, it's almost like a bit of, I don't know, we'll call it maybe a bit of embarrassment, on his part. But to be fair, it's Jack Clark all over that makes him do that. Stewart's movement. Like I said earlier, I don't even think Stewart scores a header like that if he's in that position. And you'd like to think if the ball did go over, they would have scored. But then obviously, the linesman's flag would have probably gone up. But as I understand it, if the defender heads it, then that's up to him. But it's a very weird rule, but we'll take it, and fair play to the ref for letting it go through, because we know, for 4 years now we've had shit officials, and last night to me personally wasn't really any different, despite him being a former Premier League referee.
But obviously, it is a big slice of luck that happened, Dylan. And for all we know, that point could turn out to be probably the biggest point of the season, depending on what happens on Saturday and the results around us. But like people say, you make your own luck in games, and so many games this season we haven't had any luck. Charlton game, the Lincoln game, where we absolutely dominated the game and just not had any luck. Like I say, hadn't found the back of the net. So to have that one piece of luck in the game that could end up seeing us in the playoffs it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes you just got to take a lucky goal or two, especially in a tough fixture like this. But I mean, as much as we were fortunate that he absolutely rifled it off corner with his massive head, I mean, we've sort of still got to be in the positions to make the defenders panic. So obviously, Stuart Arthur, I don't think he was offside anyway, but Stuart has to be there for him to then panic and stick it in his own net. Like if we weren't honest, go to front. If Stuart hadn't made that running behind, he would have just calmly thinking it back to passed it back to the keeper. So we've got to just keep putting in 100% and keep creating chances, and then if it takes a defensive slip up for us to get the goal, I mean we've still done our part. So just need to keep at the races, and whether it's us or whether it's the opposition putting the ball in their net, I don't care as long as we get points on the board.
Yeah. We'll do play maintenance and then we'll get into the kind of rest of the season for the last 5 minutes or so. And we'll start with Patterson. John had nothing to do, so 6.
Yeah, standard 6.
Theme today.
Yeah, standard 6. I'll give him no chance really with the goal. Yeah, apart from that, I don't think he really touched the ball, did he?
Not that I'm aware of, Dylan.
Yeah, no, I'll give him a 6 as well. But I do just want to say, I know it didn't matter because it'd be blown for offside. But right at the end, when they sort of smashed the ball in, and he's like, dropped behind and stopped it off the goal line with one hand. Oh, that was very nice.
Yeah. Bailey Wright again was relatively solid throughout the game, other than one kind of mistake right at the end, which I thought we were going to get punished for, but luckily we didn't. So again, John, 6.
I'll probably bump him up to a 7. I thought it was quite decent and quite steady back there, considering the performances he's sort of been shown before. And he seems to be on, I'd say on the sort of like top form for him at the moment. I thought he did really well. The only other thing I'd say, a lot of balls that went up sort of aimlessly. Or I say aimlessly, but it obviously didn't connect with Stewart or Broadhead. But I don't think the options were there with, when you've got Winchester out wide, he'll always be looking for that ball. And I don't think we really had that. So that's probably the thing I'd give him, that wasn't really his fault. If he's got no one to aim for, there's not really anyone, he can get the ball to. So.
Yeah. Dylan?
I would have agreed with a 6. I thought he was all right, but again, same as you said, I didn't really understand his desire to start playing out from the back in the last few minutes of the game, which obviously we could have conceded from his mistake, but we didn't. So, I mean, on a different day, I'm giving him a -1, but he's getting a 6 today because he was, other than that one slip up, he was perfectly fine.
Yep. Danny Bart again, just 6, John.
Yeah, but I'd probably go for 6. I didn't really notice him, to be fair, too much. I think he won a couple of headers. But apart from that, I didn't really notice he was playing. So yeah, 6.
So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's going to be a few 6s today for him, but yeah, no, he was there. He did his job for the most part, but nothing spectacular.
Yeah. Callum Doyle, obviously he started with Winchester out injured on the left side of defence, and I think he did struggle a little bit in the game. Lost a fair few of the 50-50s that he was involved with, and a couple of times it was a run allowed in behind him. So I'd probably go with a 5 for Doyle, John.
Yeah, same. I'll go over 5. Bless him. He's up against an absolute unit in that Michael Smith. I don't understand. I think they've obviously pinpointed Doyle and said to Smith, because you go on Doyle, because if he goes on Wright or Danny Bart, I don't think he's getting the same sort of joy, even though he is, to be fair, a good player. But yeah, every time he was rolling Doyle, and Doyle was sort of diving in, and the amount of times that they did get in down that flank, it was quite frustrating. So yeah, I'd give him a 5.
Yeah, Dylan?
Yeah, no, I'd give him a 5 as well. I think you can tell that he hasn't been playing regularly in the side for a while. He's just not quite looking as sharp as he was earlier on the season. But I mean, again, Smith is a very good striker, so it's a hard one. But he wasn't outstanding yesterday.
Yeah. Trey Humes started quite surprisingly, considering he's hardly played, if played at all, under Alex Neil, to be honest. But I think early in the game, he got forward quite well, looked confident on the ball, but was less involved as the game kind of went on, and obviously was taken off eventually. So against 6, John.
Yeah, same. I'll go for 6. We're probably missing out Gooch and Winchester out there, and to bring a kid in who's not really played at all. To be fair, I thought he was all right. I think we've got a good player there. He's just going to need a bit of time and a bit of nurturing. But when he did get through. He was driving and getting his head up, and his ball retention as well. On the wing, because they would have targeted him as well. As they did Doyle, they would have said, right, as soon as that kid gets it, get in his face. And I thought he dealt with it quite well, to be fair. So yeah, 6.
Yeah, Dylan.
Yeah, no, he gets a 6 from me. I thought he looked quite bright, and obviously he's still young. He's one of those players where he's only going to improve by getting more games. So I hope that he can stay in the side, or at least coming on off the bench instead of just warming the bench for half a season like he's had for the most part. But yeah, no, he looked good. I like him.
Yeah. God, I think there's going to be more 6s today than ever before, to be honest. Corey Evans again, John, 6.
Yeah, 6. It was quite busy. Nice to see him get in the referee's face a couple of times about tackles going in, and like I said, we haven't seen that in previous seasons, but it's nice to see that. And yeah, he was steady, and he was doing a lot of covering as well. So yeah, I'll give him a 6.
I think I will say he probably took the worst shot I've ever seen as well, though.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I think even I keep mentioning, or even my little one, I think he was close to swearing when he shot that. Jesus, I've never seen someone try and hit a ball and then the trajectory has just gone straight up.
Yeah.
Just straight in the air. It wouldn't surprise me if that's hit the scoreboard, and I'm not joking. It's gone straight up. But yeah, the rest of the game, yeah, it was fairly solid. But don't shoot Corey, please. Just square it.
Yeah. Done.
Yeah, no, I'll give him a 6 as well. He was good, but I agree about that shot. I for a second I thought I was like watching Max Power highlights, and it was just no. It wasn't fun to watch. That was a proper head in hands moment when he smashed that in.
It's probably the hardest thing you can do from that position, to hit the ball that high. I think he was 20 yards out.
No, I know it was just it was an absolute rocket, to be fair, but it was just didn't help anybody at all. So he doesn't get credit for that from me.
No. Matete, best performance since he signed. And again, one thing that I've always noticed, he does give the ball away quite a lot, but he does win it back. I'd probably say 6 again, John.
Yeah, I think he just about gets a 6. He was still, really industrious. Like I said earlier, a couple of times he's sort of turning into the crowd. I'd like him to just get hold of the ball and just spray it just a little bit quicker, and that would set us away. But he plays the game at his own speed, doesn't he? And I think he was a little bit unlucky to get booked, because I think he does poke the ball away, and then a couple of times you knew he wanted to make the challenge but just couldn't because of the booking. And then obviously rightly brought off. But yeah, we'll go for 6.
Yeah. Done.
Yeah, I'll give him a 6 as well. And as it's just been said there, I think he was suffering from having that yellow card, which was by no way a yellow card. He quite clearly won the ball. It was a brilliant tackle. But I mean, I saw him getting absolute pelters on Twitter last night, and I didn't really understand where people were coming from, because I think he's quite clearly a good player. And yes, it wasn't his best performance, but he could have done it far lot worse than he did. So I quite like him, and I think he's gonna be a very good midfielder soon.
Yeah. Luke O'Nien, obviously, like we said, it was his man that he lost for the goal. He was very honest about that one as well. But the second half was more involved. Some nice touches, some nice 1-2 passes, and put a couple of really good crosses into the box that just had no one there to get on the end of. So I'd probably go with the highest 6 yet, John.
Yeah, I'd probably have him at a 7, but I'll because of obviously losing his man on the goal, which is so frustrating because he's such a dependable guy. In those situations, yeah, I'll probably knock him down to a 6. But yeah, sort of going forward and getting those balls across. He's done very well on his weaker foot as well. For someone who's not the most gifted player, and his lovely little flick as well to put Stewart through in the first half as well.
Yeah.
I'll go for 6, and again a very industrious, in the middle as well. It's not easy to play in the middle of Sunderland's midfield when the passes of the ball aren't in there. So it's very much an industrious game, and I thought that suited him quite well, to be fair. But yeah, I'll go for 6.
Yeah, done.
Yeah, no, he's probably a 6 for me as well. But I'll give him a bit of extra credit for standing in front of the keeper, winding him up while Pritchard was getting ready to take his free kick. Which, by the way, I thought had gone in because I saw it hit the side and then heard Frankie Francis practically orgasm because he thought it had gone in. But if that had gone in, I might have given him a 7 just for winding the keeper up. But we'll give him a 6.5 just because he was slightly better than all the other 6s.
Yeah. Linden Gooch, again, probably a high 6/7, John. Yeah, high 6/7.
Yeah, I'd probably go. Yeah, I'd probably say a 6, and maybe it's not because of him. He's had a really good game, bless him, on Saturday on the right wing, and then he sort of shoehorned on the left for this side, and it's like it didn't really happen. Obviously, we know why he's there because of his industrious work rate and to sort of protect Doyle a little bit. So it was more of a grafting one. He did actually run his man in the second half a couple of times and win us a few corners that we sort of wasted. Yeah. But it's sort of a typical Gooch performance. Doing a job for the team, and not really anything else. But yeah, I'll go for 6.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I'll give him a 6 as well. He worked very hard and did his job, but I mean, there's not much as you said, there's not much he can do right when he's getting moved about every week. But he did well.
Yeah. Broadhead wasn't really involved in the game, so I'd probably go with a 5, John.
Yeah, I'll go with a 5. It was a bit like the Plymouth. It was very frustrating, sort of just in and out, shoot some really, really nice touches here and there. Didn't seem to be on the same wavelength as Stewart. He went one way, the ball went the other, and that happened sort of countless times. And I think Neil said after he's still carrying, an injury a little bit, so we'll maybe give him the benefit of the doubt, but hopefully rest up and he's ready to go for Saturday.
Yeah. Done.
Yeah, I give him a 5 as well. I don't think he was at the races, and I mean, he's obviously not. I know he's been scoring headers and that recently, but he's not the biggest of lads, and the Rotherham defence is just built of actual man mountains. So I just don't think where he was going to be able to do anything. But as we said, hopefully he's better for the Morecambe game and can score 15 goals. That would be ideal.
Would be. Last but not least was Stewart. Again, another 6. Sick of saying that number today, but just didn't really have anything to do in the game, and a lot of that was down to the fact the service just wasn't there for large parts of the game. So yeah, 6, John.
Yeah, same. I go for 6. Again, a lot of industry, but he's a lot of times he's sort of 1-on-1, 2-on-1 with their centre backs, and it just didn't happen. Didn't win any free kicks. We found him quite deep at times because obviously the ball wasn't up there. So when the ball was, we did eventually get up the pitch. Obviously he wasn't there, so it was a bit of a frustrating one for sort of 60, 70 minutes. But then again, he's in a position to make the defender do what he did, which ultimately gives us the draw. So yeah, we'll go for 6 and hat-trick incoming on Saturday.
Yeah, I think he is joint top scorer now with Will Keane. I think so. It would be an interesting one as well if how many he scores versus Will Keane. Done.
Yeah, no, I give him a 6 as well. I just did what he always does, work very hard, but it just didn't come off for him for the most part. I think just in general, in terms of an attacking sense, it was lackluster from everyone. There wasn't much service for him to do anything with, but I mean, he just ran himself in the ground like he does every game, and that's all I can ask for in those circumstances, really.
Yeah. Man of the match, Luke O'Neill was given it after the game. yesterday, which a lot of people didn't agree with. But to be honest, I don't think you could really pick anyone else out that did anything much in the game. So, John, who would you go with if you had to pick one out of the 11 sixes we've given, probably?
Well, I've given Bailey Wright probably the highest at 7, so I'd probably have to go with Bailey Wright. But it's just one of those games. No one, I don't think anyone really stood out. It's more of a collective, effort than any one individual really sort of standing out. The ones who do stand out are the ones who probably came onto the pitch. Your Pritchards, your Embletons, and they obviously weren't long enough to affect it in any way, shape, or form. So it's a very Bailey Wright man of the match.
Yeah, Dylan.
For me, it was definitely a Hickway. Saving us now. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I don't really get given out man of the match award when we haven't won, because if we haven't won, it's not been the best of performances. But I would say either Wright or 9. I'm not too sure, to be honest. No one stood out because no one was particularly great.
Yeah. Well, last game of the season on Saturday, obviously away to Morecambe, which is probably, given the games that the other top 6 have on paper, could be the easiest game. Obviously Rotherham have Gillingham, who are also, well, in the relegation zone as it stands, because I forgot it's 4 teams that get relegated in this division. So as it stands, they are bottom 4, just behind Fleetwood on goal difference. Morecambe are 2 points safe. So Morecambe could need a win, or at least not get beat if they want to stay up. So it'll be an interesting game, and probably a frustrating game as well, given Morecambe will probably set up to just not lose the game and get people behind the ball. But as it stands, we're 5th, which would mean we play Sheffield Wednesday in the playoffs, who are 4th, John. It's probably, when you look at the top 6, it's probably the one game that I'd fancy us to win over 2 legs more than any other. Obviously, things can change. We might not even finish in the playoffs. They might not finish in the playoffs. Who knows? But as it stands, that's how it's looking. It would probably, is that the best outcome for us?
I've personally, at the moment, I think Sheffield Wednesday the one we'd want to avoid. Personally, I just think they're on a better run than we are, if not the same. I'd fancy beating MK Dons over 2 games, and I'd fancy beating Plymouth over 2 games. But Sheffield Wednesday, just think a little bit. They're probably the ones who slightly worry me. On the other hand, I don't think we should really worry about playing teams, because if you wanna get out of the league, you've got to go and beat the informed teams. You just have to. So it's sort of a double-edged sword for me almost. But yeah, Sheffield Wednesday is the ones I'd want to be avoiding. But over 2 games, you'd like to think that we can, Alex Neil can set up, happily take a draw at their place, bring them back to our place, and then, sort of play them off the park if that's going to be the tactic. You'd like to think that we could do that to any team in from 3 to 6.
Yeah, and obviously we don't. Well, we might, but we don't necessarily have to win on Saturday, Dylan, because the teams around us could easily lose. Obviously, Wycombe are away to Burton, I think it is. That's not an easy game for them to win. And I think, depending what the scoreline we lost was on Saturday, if Wycombe drew, we'd still finish in the playoffs. Plymouth obviously have MK Dons. MK Dons need to win to get automatic promotion. Rotherham, well, they are out of sight now anyway. So it's really Sheffield Wednesday, Sunderland, Plymouth, and Wycombe that are all in the same kind of boat. Although we don't need a win, it would be very disappointing after a 12-game unbeaten run with some of the results we have picked up to not get something out of the game on Saturday, let alone 3 points.
I think surely, for the purpose of mentality, we'll have to win, because it's a game that we should be winning anyway. But why would, even if we lose and get playoffs, why would we want to be going into the playoffs on the back of a loss against a team at the bottom of the table and then have to play like one of the teams that are very tough? It's not. So we need to just go out and get the job done, just dispose of them, obviously in an ideal world, and then go in on the back of a win, ready to go and play whoever, give 100% to smash whoever we're playing in the playoffs. But I mean, as we said earlier, it's not like we should be winning against Morecambe, and then going into the playoffs, we shouldn't be scared of anybody, because it's not, if you want to get promoted, then you're gonna have to play the teams in the league above. So why would we be worried about the teams in this league?
Yeah, so we'll see. But that is all we have time for today. We'll be back to talk about the Morecambe game on Sunday, and hopefully looking ahead to the playoffs. If it is Sheffield Wednesday, I suppose that's the one game that I could go to, which could be a bad thing for Sunderland, to be honest. Because, like I said, I've been to 7 away games this season and we've won one of them, so I might actually stay away from that one, depending on what happens in the other leg of the game. But like I say, we're back on Sunday to talk about that game. But until then, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.